these two boxes of Rallyman are jam-packed with possibilities, and it's my intention to highlight all of the interesting things you can do with them. This is Shakedown. In today's Shakedown, we're going head-to-head against DrWorm's NPCs around the Gran Canaria Race of Champions circuit. What is the Race of Champions? Let's go back to 1997 and find out by watching some classic Top Gear.
I'm going to give you some lessons in motorsport. Lesson number 1, rallying. You go from A to B, one at a time, against the clock. Lesson number 2, racing. You're against the other fellow, going round and round in circles. Lesson number 3, racing and rallying are different, never the twain shall meet. But lesson number 4, the annual Race of Champions here in Gran Canaria breaks all those rules. The event takes place in a natural bowl, with the rally stage looped round into a closed circuit. Two drivers in identical cars start out at the same time as if in a race, but their lanes are separated. The one on the outside has to go further, so to make it fair, build in a crossover point. Then, at the end of lap 1, they'll have swapped over. Do one more lap and each car will have covered the same distance and gone over exactly the same course to end up how they started out. So whoever crosses the line first is the winner, just like in a race.
The Race of Champions is a tournament to determine the best driver from multiple motorsport disciplines, and for most of the 1990s the event was held here on Gran Canaria, which has been digitally recreated for Richard Burns' rally. The entire stage is in fact a community-created stage, and I'm in a community-created car with a custom livery that I've made thanks to tutorials from the community. And it's nearly 20 years since this game first came out. Isn't that cool? And doesn't that sound familiar as we embark on a Rallyman race around a community-created circuit against community-created AI drivers? So whose car will cross the line first, me or the machine? A quick look at the rules then. We are racing around Gran Canaria, which you can find in the Race of Champions collection on Board Game Geek. To make it exactly as you see it requires tiles from both Rallyman base games as well as multiple expansions, but you're free to use alternatives if you have any. I'm going to be racing with the R5 cars on gravel tyres. You can pick whichever car class and tyre you like, so long as each driver has the same type of dashboard in front of them. I'm going to be using version 2 of DrWorm's non-player cars, also available to download on Board Game Geek. To keep things nice and quick, they're set to the normal difficulty, so there's no re-rolling of dice, and there are no driver-specific tweaks either. That can be something that we investigate in future games. We're not going to have any spare tyre card or access to the pits. The race is too quick for that, but we will be pulling damage and shortcut tokens as and when we need to. As we're using rally dashboards, I'll need to use the time cards to see how much damage any mistakes will dish out. But as the winner is the first across their finish line, the actual time I record with these will only be for fun. And I can tell you now that it'll be easy to beat if you want to run this stage as a rally stage instead. I think that's everything, so let's get stuck in. I am going to kick us off with a 1, 2, 3, and then there's a speed limit of 3 for me coming up, so I have to coast through it. And we can only get up to 4th gear unless we boost to 5th gear. I am going to go flat out. That will allow me to get lots of focus tokens for future turns. All being well, I will end up in that space in 5th gear. All was well. That has generated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 focus tokens for me. And it is over to the NPC to see if it can match me on the outside lane. It is probably going to do a very similar move. We have to roll all the dice. There are no re-rolls with this difficulty. There's no loss of control with the dice that it has rolled. It did start with a hazard on the 1 though, but that is fine. It's going to coast through the gears up to 2. It can go into 3 and it can boost up to 5. There was a hazard on its boost, but it is good. It's not at its limit. It's going to end in 5th gear over here. We're both in the same gear. We have both moved the same distance from our start line, so the inside lane takes the next tie break. That means it's me to go first. I'm going to coast in gear 5 and I'm going to drop to gear 4. I think distance is going to be important, so I'm going to drop to gear 3 and then coast into, no, I'm going to drop to gear 2 and then drop to gear 1 and then coast out. Like I was saying, distance I think is going to be more important than ending speed in this race. So I'm going to roll these. I'm going to also roll these flat out. Feeling lucky. Get my focus token pool up. That is good. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more focus. And we end just after our first hairpin in first gear. What can the NPC do to catch us up? It's going to take the outside lane. It hasn't lost control and it has a lot of dice to work with. So it's going to coast on the outside. It's in 5th gear, which means it needs to get down to gear 3 for that junction. It will drop to 2 because it can, and then it'll go up through the gears 3 into 4, and then it will start adrift in gear 5. So it's going to take the turn order, but has he got the distance for going into that drift space? We won't know till the end of the race. So we are into our next round. The NPC is going first. A couple of hazards, but it should be able to do its turn reasonably well. It's going to coast in 5th, stay in 5th. It's then going to drop to gear 4 and then coast through the water hazard and then coast into the jump. However, it can't take that jump in gear 3 because it would add too many hazards to its limit, which means it's going instead to drop down to 2, drop down to 1, and then boost up to 3. And that will make the most of its dice, push it quite far along the track, regardless of not being able to get some extra distance with a jump, and give me some headaches on my turn. I do at least start from first gear, so I can steadily go up through the gears. If I want some extra distance, though, I will need to be in 5th for that jump. So let's plan that out. That will take us here. And then we can coast into this spot over there. That will put us in 4th gear. But we will have to use some focus tokens to pay for it all. So I am going to do that. So I'm going to roll 1 by 1. See how far we get. The 1 is good. The 2 is good. The 3 is good. The boost and the 5 have to be paid for so that I don't lose control over the jump. So that's 3 focus. And the coast is good. And the final coast is good. We're going to take a long jump and end in this space in gear 4. And we are into our next turn. I have turn order for being in higher gear. And there is a hairpin coming up. So I'm going to coast along a little bit. And then I'm going to drop to gear 3. Come through that corner in gear 2. And then boost out of it in gear 4 up to gear 5. That is where I want to end. Again, I'm going to go 1 by 1, see how far we get. The coast is good. Second coast is good. The 3 is good. 2 is good. Boost 4 is good. Should have gone flat out. and the 5 was our only hazard of the roll. We're in this space all the way over here, end our turn in 5th gear. What does the NPC do on the outside lane? How far around can it get? It hasn't lost control, and it is going, I think, I was going to say to start in 1, but I don't think that will give it the best run coming up to that gear 3 corner. Let's see how far we get. Coast, coast to, yeah, I don't quite want that. Could make use of a drift space, however, to end in gear 5. That would at least give it a chance of using the inside lane space of that corner on the next turn. So that is what it is going to do. It's going to come to a drift around the outside hairpin of Gran Canaria. We are both in 5th gear. However, we have to work out the distance from our relative start lines. So it's good to double check. So minimum space or minimum amount of spaces that it needs, ignoring any track features. So we started here. So the minimum to get to where we are is 1, 2, 3, 4, 26 spaces. We're going to count 26 spaces. And if this car is further ahead, then it will go first. 1, 2, 3, 23, 24, 25, 26. So it is behind us. It hasn't got the distance from the start line that we have. So we are going to break that tie and we're going to go over this bridge as fast as we can. We are in gear 5. I would very much like to show off and take that jump in 5th gear, because that would put us all the way over into this space. I then can break down into gear 3. And then, knowing that I don't have many brakes, in fact, any brakes on the asphalt, I might have to think about my turn coming up. I think it's safe for me to stay in 5th, and then I can do my braking at the start of the next turn instead of at the end of it. I think that's the best thing for me to do. I'm going to have to roll those one by one so that I don't crash from the jump. So the coast is good. I'm going to pay for this coast die to make sure I don't lose my turn. Break down to 3 is 2 hazards. So if I do want to continue that, I'm going to have to pay for those 2 dice as well. Better to play it safe than to be sorry. So I've come over the bridge, a little bit too hot, a little bit too dangerous, but I am in 5th gear all the way up here. Can the NPC keep up with me? It still hasn't lost control, but that's a lot of hazards to work with. It's in gear 5. It is going to break down to gear 3. It is going to boost up to gear 5. Have we got any hazards yet? We've got one hazard from that. It's then going to come into 4th, coast, coast, and I can't put any more hazards down, so it's going to end its turn in 4th gear in this space. Not the most that it could have done. Was there a better way of doing that? Perhaps the tape will tell. Certainly a learning opportunity for us all, the NPC cars. So we're into the next round, and I look to have a healthy lead. It's probably at this point that I will forget how my tyres fare on asphalt. So let's play it safe. We're going to go 5-4. I can't use my brakes on the asphalt, so we're going to go 3, 2, coast, coast, and into 1. Again, not good for time, but as we are trying to get distance in this race, that's what I'm going to do. I am going to risk going flat out. I'll give the NPC a chance to catch up. How about that? We have, however, lost control.
90 left, tightens.
That was a bit of hubris for us. It was 5-4, and then we're going to lose on a 3. And unfortunately, I have to take that because there's no other way of not. So we're in gear 3. We are on a red danger level corner. That is 2 damage pulls. That is not what I wanted to see. Let's see what we get. Green flag, that's nice. And then -1 gear. So we are at -1 gear for the rest of the race. There is no pit stop, no spare tyre in the Race of Champions. We are stuck with what we get. So we have to do an entire half lap of this course with gear damage. That is not good. That's what you get for going flat out too often. You do, however, get your focus tokens from whatever you roll. And unfortunately, we are going to have to watch the NPC for a little while. The NPC is in gear 4. It's going to roll everything to see what it does. It hasn't lost control. Lots of hazards elsewhere, though. It probably wants to slow down for this corner as well. It's going to get the turn advantage, of course, for me spinning out. Right, it needs to be in 3rd gear in that corner, so let's do that. And then can coast, come down to 2. Can we do it any other way? I don't think we can, so it's going to end in a slow gear, but at least end in gear, which is more than we managed. And it's a new round. Now it has a chance of catching up. So let's see how far in the dirt it can get. No loss of control, lots of dice to work with. Starts in 1st gear, so it can churn through the gears. In fact, it can get all the way up to 5 and end its turn like that. That looks threatening as we see it in our rear view mirror. Well, I guess we spun around, so we're probably looking at it. What can we do as we have a run? So we have -1 gear damage, and we can only place 4 on tarmac to begin with. So we have 3 gears to work with. 1, 2, coast, coast. Boost 4 is the best that we can manage. That'll put us there in 4th. I'm going to roll those one by one. Learned my lesson. The 1 is a hazard. 2 is good. Coast is good. 2nd coast is a hazard. Not rolling very well. I'm going to pay for that set of dice up there. That will allow me to... Oh, sorry, that's the wrong token, isn't it? Pay for that set of dice. That will allow me to at least put up a fight as we go into the next round. Gear 5, the NPC has the turn order. And it's rolled quite badly at the low gears. Very close to a loss of control, but it didn't manage it. It can't brake on the tarmac, so it's going to have to go 4, 3, 2, and then coast, coast. And because I think distance is going to be... Oh, I can't even go for distance because that would be the 3rd hazard symbol of its turn. So that is as best that it can go. We are into this space in 2nd gear. And it looks quite close. However, we have a go ourselves. We're going to cross the line to go into the outside lane. So we're definitely going to coast. We don't have many gears. We can't brake, which means our best course of action is to go 3, 4, 5. That puts us there. All being well. Turn around. There you are. Again, I'm going to roll one by one. There's a hazard on the first coast. Second coast is good. Third is good. Fourth is another hazard, so I'm going to pay for the gear 5. I absolutely don't want a second crash. And that is our turn into the next round. We do at least have the advantage of going first to try and put a bit of distance between ourselves. I'm going to, again, coast to coast. And how about slowing down and getting distance? So, because we don't have the gears, 5, 4, 3, and then 2, into that outside space. I want as much distance as I can. We still have focus tokens, so I am going to roll one by one. Coast is good. Coast is good. 5 is a hazard. 4 is good. 3 is good. And the 2 is good as well. And we're into this space in second gear. What can the NPC do to keep up? Lots of hazards. No loss of control. It is going to drop down to 1, 2, 3. There is a speed limit in 3 coming up, however, so if it instead boosts 4, it can coast into that. It can coast there, and then it can come out in 3, and everything else is a hazard, so he doesn't want to do that. He'll be in this space in third gear, and that will take turn order in the next round. So as we put him in place, we get to roll for him again. A couple of hazards again, no loss of control. It's in third gear. There's a third gear corner coming up. Let's see, let's coast. And then let us drop to, no, let's give ourselves a challenge. Let's come to second, third. To really give ourselves a challenge, we can go up to fifth, but that wouldn't be very good for the next corner. So we will go into gear 4 in that space. Can we end our turn in fourth or higher to try and give ourselves a bit of breathing room? Let's find out. We are in gear 2. I'm going to go for distance. I'm going to drop to gear 1. I'm going to go up to gear 2, coast through the water hazards, into gear 3, coast over the jump would put us here. And if I want to maximize my gears, thanks to that damage, I'm going to have to boost 5 into this space over here. I'm going to roll those one by one and see how far we get. 1 is good, 2 is good, coast is good, 3 is good. This coast die for the jump is good, and so we are safe to roll boost 5. There was a hazard on the 5, but that is fine for us. We are in this space, right on the outside. It is actually looking pretty good for us, despite our lack of gears. We are into the next round, and we are continuing our turn. Ultimately, we have to slow down for gear 3, but that's not for a while. 4, coast. Let's go 3, Let's go distance. 2-1. Let's take the risk. I'm going to roll those flat out because I clearly haven't learnt my lesson. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Focus coming our way and no crash. That's how we are supposed to do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. And I think I can now play it safe until the finish line comes into view. But let's roll for the NPC. Can we catch up on the inside lane? We are good. Another close to loss of control. The high gears, however, are not looking too good. It's going to need to break down to 2 and coast around the outside. That is good. It can drop to 1 and then coast. And then it can, I'm trying to go for distance. That is the best that I can work out for him. He's going to go first with the speed anyway. So that is that turn for our NPC rival. And it's going to go again. Much better roll for it this time. It's in 3rd gear. I think it can probably stay in a high gear. Yes, let's go down into... Or does he want to take the jump? No, let's go distance. And there's not much in it because it would only have taken the jump in gear 4 anyway. And then we can coast and put the pressure up in gear 5. And that will end us there. I say us, I mean it's me controlling it, but it is my opponent. So I shouldn't get too comfortable. What can we do? We have a gear 3 corner coming up. And we're in 1st gear. So 1, coast, not the best. 2, again I don't have the gears, but I can go 4 and I can go into 3rd at the apex. That will give me the distance that I crave. 1 by 1. The 1 is good. Coast is good. 2nd coast is good. 2 is good. I'm going to roll these together. Hope for the best. There is a hazard on the 4. There was a hazard on the 3 as well, so it's a good job. We do have 3 hazards before we lose control. So that is our turn. And we're into another round. And this is where potentially our NPC catches up with us. So let's see how it manages. No loss of control. Absolutely flawless set of dice to work with. So let's coast. Let's dip into 4th. And then drop into 2nd. And drop down, increase to 3. And then boost into 5th gear. That is the best that I can manage with that. And it looks quite threatening as we go beneath it on the outside lane. So we're in gear 3. There's a gear 2 corner and a gear 2 corner coming up. So let's coast, drop to 2, take the bridge away, coast, and drop to 1, and then boost up to 3, or instead we'll go up to 3 and we'll boost into 5. But then we will have to take the shortcut, but it would be the last lap, so damage isn't that important, right? Let's see how far we get. Let's go 1 by 1. I've got lots of focus to play with. Coast is good. 2 is good. Coast is good. 3 is a hazard. I got the focus to pay for it, so I'm going to pay for both these dice. And that puts us in gear 5 in this space over here. And that is another turn done. So we can either drift the long way around, or we can cut through the shortcut and risk some more gear damage. At this stage of the race, I think risking it is going to be better for us. So I'm going to go through the shortcut in 3rd gear. I'm going to drop down to 2. I'm going to coast and then boost up to 5 once boost up to 4 and then enter 5. And that should be good for me. Can't use any more gear dice thanks to my damage. Roll these one by one because there's a lot that could go wrong. The 3 is good, but we are going to pick a shortcut token, which is okay. Bit of luck at last. The 2 is good. Coast is good. The other coast is good. I can roll these together. 1 hazard on the 4, but I am good for rolling another hazard on the 5 because we are not at our loss of control limit and we get all the way down the track there. However, we don't know if it's far ahead enough of our NPC rival. Let's see what they can do. They were close to losing control, lots of hazards, so it's going to be tricky for them. They're going to coast in there, and they're going to coast again over the jump, which puts them here. Then they can break down to 3. They can either end in 5th or they can end in 4th. I think they want to go for distance. No, in fact, they can't because the boost has a hazard, which means the best that they can get is 4th. Can they get any distance from it? Sorry, the best they can end is 5th if we do it like that. So they do manage to end in 5th as I ummed and ahed my way through the turn there. They get over the bridge in some style. And it looks neck and neck. Who has the victory? I am absolutely not sure. I get the tie break. I need to slow down very quickly for the corner. I've got no brakes. I've got 3 gears thanks to that damage. So the best I can do is end in gear 2 in this space, a couple of spaces before the line. I'm going to go flat out for speed, if anything. Just the 1 hazard on the 3, so we managed to get around the last corner and end in 2nd gear in this space over there. Is that enough for the win? It probably looks it. Let's see how far behind the NPC was. A couple of hazards. It's actually looking pretty good. And if it ends in a higher gear than 2, it may well cross the line before I do. So 5, 4, coast, coast, break down to 2. No, it hasn't got any brakes on asphalt. So let's break down to 3 there. And then we can drop to 2 here. and then we can boost our way up to 4th in that space. So we're going to put our Gear 4 token there and end their turn. So on this turn, we're in the black round, the NPC has to cross the line on this turn for the win. It hasn't lost control, so it's certainly able to do that. What is the most amount of distance that it can get? Coast to coast. 3, 4, 5 will take it over the line. And I have been beaten by DrWorm. I hope he's watching and can tell me where I went wrong. All I would have needed to do to cross the finish line is to go 3, 4. That would have ended my turn in 4th gear. I'm going to count up the time that it's taken me for fun. But otherwise, that has been Gran Canaria. That has been DrWorm's NPCs. Clearly, crashing was not advisable when you're going up against them, even when you're playing against the normal difficulty. And I hope you enjoy whatever you get out of your races against the NPCs or on circuits like this.